This is the beginning of something huge for the Minnesota Wild, as recent reports and from what we've been able to see with Samuel Hlavaj in this World Championships has set him up for something special with the Minnesota Wild. We're going to be breaking that down here, as well as Jared Spurgeon and some quotes that came from him and his Canadian teammates here, and very interesting stuff that we're going to have to touch on with his future for the Minnesota Wild. We're going to touch on all of that here in this video. Very quickly, before we jump into this one, be sure to hit the sub button if you haven't already. We have a lot of Wild news to bring you, and we know suggest still over 80% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed. It's a free button. You can hit it, and you can unsubscribe whenever, but we have a lot of Wild news, so you will not want to miss it. We got you here with daily videos. So let's start off in this video, though, with Jared Spurgeon and his Canadian teammates. We had a lot of quotes to jump over from guys like Noah Dobson, from what we've been able to see, and it gives us a good look at how the rest of the NHL and the Minnesota Wild think of Jared Spurgeon and what his remaining career will look like. We're going to jump straight into our first quote here from Noah Dobson. I see him twice a year, but just watching up close so far this tournament, he's so smart. For an undersized guy, he's just so smart, makes the right play every time, always in the right position. As a D-man, he's a guy you can watch a lot and learn from. Just being around him day to day, definitely underrated. I think that's safe to say. Now, this is big quotes coming here from Noah Dobson. Of course, Noah Dobson, a very young, talented defenseman who may or may not be traded this year, and we'll see what the Wild do on this. We know that there is some reason why the Wild are looking for defensemen, according to some reports that we've been able to see in all of our Rossi videos. It feels like there's always defensemen there, but having a guy like Noah Dobson come out and talk about Jared Spurgeon as, I would say an idol at this point, really the way he's kind of talking about him, how smart he is, it goes to show how the rest of the league thinks about Jared Spurgeon. And this article, which will be in the comments below, talks about just about every Canadian defenseman talking about Jared Spurgeon. And we've been able to see him have a load of success over the Wild's last few seasons, whether it is international, whether it is with the Wild, whether it's in the playoffs, and there are a few injuries sprinkled in here or there, but when we look at Jared Spurgeon, he's become a very, very big leader on this team, as we know from being a captain, but also, be willing to move down with Brock Faber be on that first line, willing to move down, take a little step back, but his role remain as big as it always has, and if not, even bigger with the amount of younger players coming into this team. And we spoke about Jared Spurgeon here in some videos about being a possible buyout candidate and stuff like that. Really, it is only on the business side of things. When it comes down to it and building a team like the Wild have, and as young as they are and as good as they are, having a guy like Jared Spurgeon is equally as important as having him on a line with whoever it may be, due to his locker room skills, due to his presence in the locker room, due to his experience in the NHL and the playoffs. He's been a big part of this team, and it goes to show that he is a guy that is going to be sticking around this team for a while. But when we see Jared Spurgeon, 66 games played this year, a few injuries, still 32 points, which is absolutely not bad for a 35-year-old defenseman who really, is an offensive defenseman, but has been able to take control over anywhere you put him with just about 20 minutes time on ice here on the season. But having names like Noah Dobson and Travis Sanheim is another one that I didn't have his quote from this video, but once again, it will be in the article down below. Quotes coming from these guys really tells people that, they would love to play with Jared Spurgeon at some point. And as Noah Dobson said, you get to see him twice a year, and when you do see him, he's an excellent guy to play with. And those types of players are good assets to be able to take some new, younger talent in via trade, via signing, and those are guys that you want to have on your team to bring in other players as well. So it just goes to show, once again, Jared Spurgeon, how much of an important player he is. And we do have another quote from former Minnesota Wild head coach Dean Evason, who is the coach of this Team Canada. He's not a big guy, but he plays as a big game. He's a leader. Obviously, when I was in Minnesota, I was part of the staff that made him the captain of our team. That was for a reason. He's leading by example here with his play on the ice and leadership and his attitude off the ice. And just kind of, sums it up once again how important he is, how much the team, the players across the NHL like him on this roster, and how much that he's going to impact the Minnesota Wild for as long as he does continue to play. Now, I want to jump into this as well in a few moments when we go and take a look here, but Jared Spurgeon obviously is a big leader on the ice and across the NHL, but when it comes to some other younger players, coming in, we did see a recent signing of Samuel Hlavaj the other day, going into his ELC, coming into this, and now being a very important part of not just this World Championship team for Slovakia, but going to be a major part of the Minnesota Wild team for the future. And as we know, as I'll pull this up once again, his stats this year for Slovakia and in Iowa, for as bad as Iowa were, they were not a great team. I think there's no denying that. He is a very, very solid goaltender for the numbers that we're seeing. And what we're going to be seeing in the future from him now is so much more important and is a big thing brewing when it comes down to the Wild's plan for the future. Now, we're looking at the World Championship there on the bottom here. 5 games, 199 goals against, 912 save percentage, even though these 2 and 3 in this tournament. And Slovakia, not the greatest team here in this specific tournament, but he is keeping this team in for these wins, and he's been able to show that he is going to be an elite goaltender for years to come. Now, when we're looking at him as well, this is not just this year. 2023 and the 21-year-old made 3 appearances, 222 goals against, a 932 save percentage. And 2024, 22 years old, 254 goals against, a 925 save percentage, and the 5-4 overtime win against Team USA were made 39 saves, which John Hynes was the coach of that team. Now, why am I saying this? Why is all this coming in? Yes, he's a Wild goalie. Yes, he's going to be taking a much bigger role here this year, but the way that we're seeing his reaction, his personality, him step up in this system, and the quotes that he's been having about the Wild system, this is very exciting for the Minnesota Wild. As I don't want to say they secured their future, but the goaltending for this team is looking very, very good for years to come. Now, when we look at the goaltending here in the NHL, Jesper Wallstedt is right now at this point jumping into a much bigger role, taking the backup spot from Marc Andre Fleury, who is retiring this year. Filip Gustavsson, in year 2 of 3 of his deal, is a very, very talented player, of course. We know how good he is, how good of a goalie he is, and we're going to need someone else to be able to back him up now. Fleury was a reliable backup, of course, but with his retirement, Wallstedt, the future goaltender of this team, which is what we drafted him for, has got to be ready for this year. And obviously, the season we saw him have last year, not great. Really unacceptable, but of course, injuries plagued. The Iowa Wild stunk. It really just kind of comes into play that goalies will take a lot longer to develop. Now, the thing about this, Samuel Hlavaj is going to be on his toes right behind Jesper Wallstedt, as he is now the starting goalie in Iowa with Riley Mercer, also recently signed from Drummondville. He's going to be given a great opportunity here to come into this season, take over as the goalie in Iowa, and maybe even crack a Wild lineup. Maybe crack a Minnesota Wild start here at some point in this season. Of course, we saw the injuries from Jesper Wallstedt this year. Let's hope that don't happen again. Let's hope he stays healthy and gets him back into his rhythm. But Samuel Hlavaj is a guy that I absolutely trust to be a backup for this team and even a starter if need be for a few games. An example for this year as well, we saw Filip Gustavsson be out for a little while, few illnesses throughout the year. We saw Jesper Wallstedt come up, who wasn't great this season, but it's once again another opportunity where you're giving these young goalies another chance, and we're kind of seeing something here now where we're getting a 22-year-old Jesper Wallstedt, a 23-year-old Samuel Hlavaj. Some of these younger goalies really get the opportunity to crack the NHL a lot earlier than some of these other goalies across the NHL on some different teams. And it might be, you never know, a years down the line, a situation where we saw with Linus Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman. Of course, Ullmark's a bit older, but 2 talented goalies, 50-50 split. There's still a lot of uncertainty about what's going to happen with Filip Gustavsson, and I think this year will really depend on what we see from not just him, but Jesper Wallstedt as well, and also Samuel Hlavaj. So this is a guy that, for the remainder of the World Championships, I do completely recommend, if you have the time, of course, because these are early in the day for a lot of these games, go and watch Samuel Hlavaj. Go watch a Slovakia game when he's playing. He is a goalie that is so calm, so subtle. And we do have a few quotes from him, of course, here, going throughout the interview process, the World Championship. He said, "I told management here if I was healthy and they want me to be here, I'll come anytime. I'm pretty happy to be here. I feel like every time something is on the table, I perform better. I don't know why. I like the pressure on me." And, those are quotes that you want to see from a goalie like Samuel Hlavaj. Someone who's young, someone who's ready to come into this lineup, crack this lineup, and show that he's ready to be in the NHL at some point. And speaking of him being in the NHL, this is what he also had to say on a promotion. He said, "I wouldn't have signed with him if I wanted to just be in the AHL. That's my goal. Go to the NHL, if I stay on the right path, I think I can get there." And like I said, I'm willing to argue that this could be this year. Depending on how Jesper Wallstedt plays, if he still needs that extra season in Iowa, Samuel Hlavaj could be a backup in the NHL. At 23 years old and playing with Slovakia, he's had that experience at some of these levels where we see NHL players really, really excel. So let me know what you think about Samuel Hlavaj here in the comments below. Do you want to see him in the NHL as a backup if we do see Wallstedt not really feel ready yet? Do you think it's safe to say that we could maybe send Wallstedt down another year as a starter in Iowa. There's a lot of opportunities here where I think this could be a very interesting look. So let me know what you think. And of course, Jesper Wallsted's next contract kicking in next year. We got to take a look at all of this kind of stuff as we get closer to the season. So let me know what you think about all of that. That's all I got in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. Remember, we got a lot of content coming, and it means a lot to us that you hit the sub button. Watch these videos every day because we love talking about the Minnesota Wild here. But like I said, that's all I got. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.